Hi everyone, welcome to another Q&A with Kareen. I've moved back indoors since we got about 3 feet of snow last weekend. And so just as an aside, I would suspect that gardening season is going to be a little bit later this year, as well as when you're going to be planting like bare root trees and shrubs, for example. But on to my Q&A with Kareen. This week's question comes from Elizabeth, and her question is, I've never heard of a mandolin except for the instrument. What is it and how does it work? Also, do you have issues with codling moths or other pests with your pears? What type of pears do you grow? I put out this call for gardening questions in the fall when I was actually processing pears, and I was explaining that I was using a mandolin to process my pears. So a mandolin, in addition to being an instrument, is also a kitchen implement. And I have one here, and you can get them, commercially, but this was actually handmade by someone in Nicaragua. My stepson traveled there several years ago, and after helping me with both pear and apple preservation in terms of cutting the apples into very thin slices and realizing it took a lot of time, when he traveled around Nicaragua and found this, he was like, I'm gonna get one of these for his own self-interest as well, in terms of it taking less time when he's helping process fruit. He has since moved out, so this is even more important. So what this allows you to do is, I do a lot of dehydrating of my pears because dehydrated pears taste like candy and they are delicious. And rather than making like pear sauce, which is not as, I feel like, as delicious as applesauce, this is the way I like to do it. So this mandolin allows you to make consistent slices of pear of consistent thickness, and then you can put them in a dehydrator. So that's what what a mandolin is. And then so you just take the pears. In terms of how it works is you just take them and you go up and down along this, and it makes it really simple to cut the pears. So the second part of her question is, do you have issues with codling moths or other pests with your pears? So I've only recently started to have some issues with codling moths. That's about the only pest that I've encountered with my pears so far. And what I'm hoping to do this year actually is to make some codling moth traps, just to keep on top of it. We have had some issues with our apples as well. So I'm gonna make some codling moth traps and see if that helps mitigate that issue. So more of a natural method where you fill up containers full of water and molasses, and that attracts the codling moths into that space so that they're not hitting your apples or pears. And I'll include a video of this really great video. It's not my video, but it's another YouTube video of what I'm going to try to do this year to try to mitigate that. So I think I would recommend that. And then I grow, in terms of the types of pears I grow Patten and Parker pears. So pears need another pollinator. They need a different variety. So just be aware of that. You can't just have one pear in your food forest or in your garden. It does need another pollinator. So Patten and Parker pears pollinate one another. I've heard good things also with golden spice pears, and Erbe would be the type of pear that would pollinate that. And then I have a couple other notes. There's also summer crisp pears, and Parker pear would also pollinate that. But my Patten and Parker pears have been super productive and something I would recommend. So now is the time of year, although it doesn't seem like it in this valley, but around mid-April, usually nurseries start to stock bare root fruit trees and berry bushes. So if you want an affordable way to buy fruit trees and berry bushes, I'd recommend getting bare root. It also gives you more variety, and it also is easier to plant, right? It's more of a human scale planting rather than bigger pots or balled and burlapped. I would not recommend balled and burlapped fruit trees ever. Potted maybe, but the smaller they are, the easier they are going to be to get established. So that's why bare root trees are the most effective. So I hope that answers your question. There are also several other pear varieties out there. Just make sure that they are for your zone. I always recommend you go to a local nursery or a garden center. Do not go to a big box store that's selling random fruit trees and berry bushes that often do not do well in your climate. So go local, and then also ask at the nursery, does this tree need another pollinator? If so, what other varieties you would recommend. So if it's a good reputable garden center or nursery, they'll have people on staff that know what they're talking about. So just make sure that you do your research when it comes to fruit trees, so that you're able to get the varieties that you want, in addition to making sure that they have the pollinators that they need. So let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Thanks again so much for your question, Elizabeth, and we'll see you next week. Bye.